You know, I thought, okay, I can't love Zendaya and John David Washington any more than I actually do. And then I watched Malcolm and Marie. Oh boy. What's going on, you guys? James here with another real review, and today I'm diving into Malcolm and Marie, the Netflix exclusive, directed and written by Sam Levinson, starring Zendaya and John David Washington. Sam Levinson is the same visionary behind HBO's Euphoria, the Emmy award-winning show that I definitely recommend you check out. Now, you don't need to watch that to understand this film at all, clearly, but man, let me tell you, both of them have their intense moments, and Malcolm and Marie is definitely a very intense film. Now, before I dive into it and tell you guys exactly what I loved and the one thing I didn't like too much about this movie, if it is your first time here at the channel, welcome to Real James, where I dive into movies early like this all the time. So if you don't want to miss out, go ahead and hit the big red button below, subscribe to the channel, and tap on that bell so you can be the first one in the comments for any new video that drops. And hey, if you haven't already, let me know in the comments below. Did you see this movie? Do you like it? If you haven't, are you very excited for this film? And don't forget to smash that like button because it does a ton to help the channel out. So guys, Malcolm and Marie really is about Malcolm and Marie. Malcolm is a filmmaker, and they both return home after his movie premiere to a whirlwind of tensions, romance, and revelations. Okay, you've probably heard the hype, and you should believe it because this movie is well deserving of all the hype. It's excellent. It's shot in black and white as well, which I absolutely love. But before we get into that, guys, I need to start off with the first thing that really stood out to me, and that's the fact that we do play as that fly on the wall. And I actually love that because it only helps add to the tension of scenes where I felt my heart rate literally increase and my breath become shallow. I was legit impacted by all of the yelling, everything. Even in the quieter moments, I felt that I was very attached to this film. I love that the film portrayed love in this very raw and vulnerable setting because it isn't always peachy. Love is also cutthroat, which makes the most ego-driven people like Malcolm feel vulnerable and knocks them down a notch. And the movie is great at exploiting faults in our characters that we really do learn about over the course of just a clean hour and 30 minutes. The length of this movie is perfect, by the way, because I felt it was, one, very fast, and two, it makes it easily rewatchable. So now we gotta talk about our two leads here, Zendaya and John David Washington, who seemingly take turns throughout the film delivering some of the best and most well-acted scenes I've seen in any film. The way that they bob and weave in and out of the script just really blew me away. I was hanging on every single word, and I was really honing in on very specific facial expressions because sometimes they don't have to say anything, and it's just the quiver of the lip that makes me feel so emotional and so tied to this film. And they're really the only ones who could have played these roles. Starting with Zendaya here, Zendaya's work with Sam Levinson really does bring the best out of her as well. To me, this is her best performance to date. In the beginning of the film, I thought, okay, well, we might have seen better in Euphoria, but then as the film gets into the middle and then that third act, she brings it home. And to me, this is her best work yet. She broke my heart more times than once, and she's just so darn authentic. Even though, yes, I know that Malcolm hates that word in the film, and it is the butt of a joke, but she is just absolutely breathtaking in this movie. Again, there was really no overacting here. She was just simply Zendaya, reminding the world that she's a force and a generational talent that is here to stay. Now, when it comes to John David Washington, guys, I don't know what it is, but I feel like I still see some slander on the timeline every now and then. He is an excellent actor, and in this role, he shows his range. He can go from romantic to argumentative to sentimental. It's just incredible. There are moments where I really feel like, okay, maybe his character is being humbled, and then it turns around on me, and you can just see that he's just Malcolm. You know, he is just an ego-driven filmmaker, but he has a heart as well. So there are so many different things that you can pick out of both characters, whether you like it, whether you don't, but all of their faults come together to make this beautiful movie. And what's great is that this film gives both of our leads plenty of spotlight moments. Some of my favorites were John David Washington's bathtub scene and him grilling that LA Times critic. He called her Karen. First of all, it was a hilarious scene. Second of all, if John David Washington watches this review, I really hope he doesn't in private go off on me like that. And then there's Zendaya's knife scene. You'll know it when you see it, and her thank you monologue. I was just speechless. You know the moments where you forget to blink during certain scenes? That was pretty much every moment or every other moment in this movie. And I know we spoke about him a little bit earlier, but Sam Levinson's vision here is so darn unique, which is what makes Euphoria so great as well. It seems like everything he touches, he has a very different approach to. And I love that Malcolm and Marie, it does seem at first like a movie that's going in one direction, but then eventually you start to get lost in the thick of things, and you're just along for the ride at some points. The decision to film this in one location during the course of one long night and have it shot so well was fantastic. I don't even know how they got together and did this during quarantine. I mean, how? And the camera work here was superb. It brought me into their arguments and made me really feel a part of their dialogues. The cinematography here is absolutely gorgeous as well. It looked so good. On any screen that you watch it on, it's gonna look good. I was also a big fan of how we'd oftentimes get these wide shots that stayed far away from our leads, almost to put an exclamation point on the fact that we, as the audience, are stuck in that house with them. I also love Sam Levinson's script here. It's brutal, it picks a bone with film criticism and criticism of the industry. It's honest, it is just, it's definitely a tour de force in a way, because I was really blown away. I felt mentally exhausted at the end, but guess what? I wanted to do it all over again. Now there's only one negative note that I have here, and it's really not that big of a negative, but it's something that stood out. The only thing that snapped me out of some of their arguments was the fact that some of these lines felt a little too scripted, and that didn't happen often, but when it did, it was very noticeable. Now I also have to remember that they're playing the roles of very vulnerable characters, and Malcolm is a filmmaker, so he probably gets a little dramatic every now and then. It's a little melodramatic, of course. But then you have Zendaya, who plays someone who is a former drug addict, and it can get really layered. Like, these conversations were very impacting, and I think that I could excuse some of those lines of dialogue that were, again, feeling a little too on the nose. They were maybe too scripted, but that didn't, again, happen very, very often. So it was basically something that they made up for in the following scene. Every time I felt a little snapped out of it, they brought me right back in. So overall, you guys, Malcolm and Marie is just a great display of what happens when two actors simply let their artistic expression flow. Zendaya and John David Washington have many Oscar moments here, and they deserve nominations as well. They are just unreal in every form of the word. Not only is this movie a must watch, but when you do see this film, it's going to live rent-free in your head. Listen, I usually only have scenes that live rent-free in my head, but this is an entire movie that is like staying right here. And I don't think I have to choose which performance I like better, because both of them are equally as impressive. Zendaya is just very vulnerable and incredibly layered, and John David Washington is one actor who is incredibly versatile, and it shows here. There are so many different parts of this film that are excellent, that come together to make this one of the best movies of 2021. I don't think it'll stay outside of my top 10 once we get into December. So if you haven't already seen it, you need to go and rush over to Netflix and watch it this weekend, because Malcolm and Marie is going to be one of those movies that is going to lay the foundation for what are two blossoming careers for both Zendaya and John David Washington. It shows exactly what they can do, what they can bring, and the fact that the ceiling for both of them is higher than we thought. So guys, yes, I loved Malcolm and Marie, and absolutely I recommend you watch it this weekend. Now I want to know what you guys have to say about the film, so when you do see it, go ahead and get loud in the comments below and let me know what you think of both of these actors and their performances. And if you haven't already, smash that like button and hit the big red button right below it, because guess what? We are getting into some awesome content over the next month. Yeah, wow, it's going to be very busy. I'm just like looking at the schedule now and I can't stop scrolling, guys. Alrighty, well, you know what? I'm going to go get started on all of that. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you at the next screening. No, I'm serious, John David Washington, if you're watching this, I love you. Please don't grill me.